Hey guys, um, it's 11:31, and you guys are probably like, "What the fuck happened?" Because I had plans on going for a walk today, and I just didn't do any of it. Oh man, I I woke up, and it was like 11:30. I was feeling kind of off. My knee and the back of my knee have been hurting. Um, and fuck man, I just started reading. It was already like 82 degrees by the time I was like active, and I'm like I just by the time I would go for a walk, it would be 90 degrees out, even in shade. I just didn't want to walk when it was 90 degrees out. um so I ended up just staying in my room, and a buddy called that I hadn't talked to in a while, and so I talked to him for like 3 hours or 2 hours or something. I don't know. It felt like a long time. Um, yeah, I just feel like I basically I didn't waste the day, but it feels like I didn't do anything of like import really. I ate the food that I planned on eating, so that's something. Um, and after this, I plan on filming my uh, the second part of the novel stuff. So there's that. But yeah, I just read a lot today. I was sucked into the story, and that coupled with the heat, there was a lot of like excuses, effectively. Um, and then my buddy's like, "Hey, do you want to come over to this part of the country and hang out?" And I'm like, "I don't know, maybe." And so he was thinking about like this upcoming Sunday, just me just like heading out there, and I'm like, it's kind of random out of nowhere, but yeah, fuck it, why not? Um, so assuming that all of that goes to plan, I'm gonna do that this weekend. I'm like, okay, uh, maybe I just need to do another trip like that just to get out of the funk that I've been like miring in. Um, because I've been doing good. It's just kind of like, again, I've talked about how it's just there's just a lot of feelings. Um, and then my friend also was kind of like, hey, have you done the like psych checks in your head of like, hey, am I being like reasonable here? And I think about how every time it's like I keep getting tempted by things. Uh, there's the temptation to be stationary and stay in my room, which, I did today. There's the temptation to kind of just go off and live off grid somewhere in a little community or something. Um, there's also the temptation of like just re-signing the lease. Um, there's a lot of temptations that are trying to get me to question the decisions I've made. Um, and I always kind of question myself, and the answer always is, you know that you just got to keep going regardless of the external stimuli. And that's really hard because the external stimuli keeps like trying to get me to do other things. Yeah, I don't know. And then I went and looked at like the the potential of flying to the different parts, like Italy, Vietnam, and Japan. And theoretically, I can do all of those with just my passport. So, like, obviously, I need to prepare things to make sure that like I could function in places where I couldn't really understand the language very well. Research the area, that kind of stuff. But, you know, theoretically, like, the passport's all I need for those three places. Now, Italy does have a, what is it called? It's like a phase 2 or type 2 warning or something. Here, let me look. I have it pulled up somewhere. Where is it? Is it here? No. What the fuck? I like have it pulled up and I don't know where it went. Oh, right, because it was an edge. Right. Okay, so I pulled this up in Edge because I didn't want my airplane prices to go up. Okay, so Italy, travel. So there's a level 2 exercise increased caution for Italy. There is a risk of terrorist violence, including terrorist attacks and other activity in Italy. Visit the U.S. Department of State's country report on terrorism to learn more. And then they list a bunch of like terrorist spots, tourist spots, transportation centers, shopping malls, that stuff. And it was issued on May 23rd, 2025. So like, I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if it seems like it's still in effect. There's like a history here. There were no changes to the advisory level or risk indicators. Okay. So that just seems like that's the thing there. Vietnam doesn't have any advisory risk levels. It's just at level 1, which is normal precautions. And then same with Japan. Japan is also, I think, at level 1. But yeah, so there's that. Something that was brought up that I've been thinking about. My buddy asked, because he was like, hey, I've known you for most of like our adult lives, and I know that you're a really good thinker, and that's kind of your mode, is like deep thinking, deep analysis, that kind of stuff. And for me to effectively not be using that in the same way to make decisions, he's like, isn't that kind of like out of scope? And then, there was also like similar things on, are you just having like a midlife crisis or some sort of like mental break or whatever? And I'm just like, it's like so frustrating that it's like, okay, there's a couple of things. On the one hand, getting repeatedly told, hey, are you having a psychotic break, or are you having some sort of mental issue, or are you having a midlife crisis? That is incredibly frustrating. Um, and it's also kind of like, it's like every time it comes up, it's like, yeah, I question that. It's like, I'm not like I understand that no one fucking gets what I'm doing. And it really bothers me that like it's continuously coming up where it's like, are you sure you're not crazy? It's like, well, fuck off. Like, I've been like thinking about this really, really strongly, and it pisses me off that like no one will fucking believe me. uh it just like it baffles me that it's kind of like, oh well, okay, I guess you'll just figure it out and then you'll come back. And it's like no one can just believe that I've internally changed in like a positive direction that's leading me towards something, because all of the people that I've been around use logic as their number one way to judge a situation. And I know that logic is the dominant way that we interact in society. That's what we're taught is the only way to make decisions. And it's just so frustrating because it's like I'm already like internally struggling with working through all of this. And it doesn't help that, and this is kind of the issue, no one has stopped and just been like, hey man, I like deeply, like, I think it's really cool what you're doing and I deeply support you. No one said that. They've just asked if I'm crazy. And then later they do the, oh well, you know, when you're done figuring out your stuff, we're gonna be here in the background, so you always have like friends. And it's like you're just giving me like platitudes at the end because you're like, oh well, he's crazy and he'll just grow out of it. And I'm like, I don't know. It's like this is the exact reason why I don't feel supported, because I get fucking questioned about everything. Um and so it's kind of like, I don't know. Um it just makes everything even more lonely because it's like I can't unsee where it's like, well, we'll be like, we'll be behind you and we support you only in the context of what we think and not like in a broader sense. And I don't know. It's just like It's frustrating. That's really what it is, because I've done so much work and no one sees it. No one sees the work that I've put in into myself. They kind of see little bits and pieces, and I try to explain, I try to show, and it's like, you know, it just kind of gets tossed to the side as like, well, but you don't have a job. You don't have like the standards that people will use as um, indicators of success in a traditional sense. So, so what does even any of what you've done even matter? Um, I don't know. It's just another indicator of me growing out of like an environment where that's the default, is like you have to do the check boxes of, you know, um, certain check boxes on certain things in order to be like fitting with the box of logic that the people use in that setting. I'm being vague because it's like I don't have any specific person that I want to like point at and say blah 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 whatever, because it's more of like a collective thing where, you know, I'm repeatedly getting kind of hit with different things from different people. So it's like no one trusts in my judgment. That's really what it boils down to. And I don't know. It's like I work best when there are people around me that genuinely like support me on a deep level. And I've had that throughout my life for very specific things. Um, an example, coming into this house, well, not this house specifically, but, doing the whole roommate thing, there was a lot of support of, like, working on myself and, um, kind of like being a part of the group and doing stuff within the group context. And it's been great. But it has to be within the group context. When it steps outside of that box, then it's like suddenly like, whoa, what are you doing? You're not in the box. You need to stand in the box, otherwise we don't know what you're doing. And it's the same thing with some of the other friends that I've chatted with, where it's like, oh, we all support you within the box of like World of Warcraft, as an example, where I have a bunch of friends, and whenever I play World of Warcraft, we're like tight knit buddies, and we are just gonna have fun and hang out. But outside of that context, it suddenly isn't the same. And so it's another one of those boxes where you're fine as long as you are in the box. But the moment you move outside the box, then suddenly they're like, what are you doing? What the heck? you know? Um, and that's where it's like I'm understanding that most people live inside a box, and their boxes are different shapes and sizes, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I've never really lived in a box. I've always floated between boxes because, well, it's, I got to fit into this box, so I'll kind of try and cram myself into this box, and I'll be like half sticking out of the box. And it's like, it doesn't really work for me, but I'll try. And within the context of the part of me that's in the box, everything's great. But all of me hasn't ever really fit inside of one specific box. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just get a bunch of boxes and I'll kind of like fit inside of like a bunch of different boxes, and it kind of works, but it also means that, you have the friends that play WoW. So if you want to talk about WoW stuff, you play with the WoW friends. Uh, you know, the roommates are like totally chill, and we can go out and get food and hang out and do stuff and like, but like, and like talk about like board games and that kind of stuff. But there are certain things that you just can't really talk about. And then it's like, oh, like, there's another box, and the other box is like, you know, this weird like alien thing. So I have a few friends who I talk about the alien stuff with, and then I have a few friends that I talk about the spiritual stuff with, and so it's kind of like, but no one in these little boxes are willing to go past the box to interact with parts of me that don't fit. Um, and so, you know, with this whole kind of process that I've been going through, it's me realizing that I need to find other people who float around not in boxes like me. Because, trying to fit boxes on my different feet and my hands and, you know, whatever, it's like, it doesn't really work. It's just a cobble of like pieces. Um, and it's like, because of this, um, it's just really jarring to really realize how boxed in most people are. Um, and there's nothing wrong with living in a box. That's the thing. Is it's like I'm not knocking the box. I just live differently. And it's like I am very open. Um, and people think of there's a lot of people who think of me as stupid, or um, in the sense of like, oh well, you don't have the street smarts, or you don't have the uh, the wisdom to be able to protect yourself, or oh well, you're just an easy mark, or blah blah blah, whatever, right? But the thing is, they don't see all of me, so they're using a very small box to like say, oh, well, I see you in this one box, and so I think I know all of you. And I'm like, bro, you don't know all of me, and I've tried to like bring up more of me, and you're just not interested, which is fine, but that also means that you don't know me. So it's like like, and I'm not saying that they don't fully know me. It's like they know the parts that they're willing to interact with, and the parts that they're not willing to interact with, they just bypass. They use their box logic to say, oh well, I don't know, that's just weird and I'm not going to interact with it. And that's fine, but again, it's kind of like, it's like I want to have interactions where it doesn't matter what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter, like, we can be at one point talking about like World of Warcraft, and then the next moment we can talk about spirituality, and then we can talk about, political stuff, and then religion and whatever, and we can just kind of like explore all these different like arenas without having to like do all these like ridiculous suppositions of like, okay, I understand that you don't believe this, or okay, like here's why I think this way, and I understand that blah blah blah, whatever, the justifications and all of that. Um, and so it's kind of like over time, um, it becomes more and more unbearable to kind of interact in this fractured way where like I just there's just it's like sometimes I forget that it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that I can't talk about spirituality because with like, an example with the roommates, because like they're like, oh well, that's woo woo stuff and it's stupid, right? um and so it's like I forget sometimes because I am so focused on trying to be like, I'm trying to be more of just all of me. And so if I think about like, oh yeah, I want to talk about something spiritual, I just say it. And I don't think about it too hard because that's what I've been doing here. Is like, I'm like, yeah, I'll just tell people what I'm thinking, and if you don't like listening to me, then don't listen to me, right? Like it's super easy to just not watch the videos. Um so yeah, I don't know. And then it was like, like my buddy today. He obviously he does care. And that's the thing. Each individual person in these different boxes, they all do care genuinely. It's just from within their box, right? And there's nothing wrong with only caring within your box. Because if you tried to care about everything outside your box, it just would be impossible, right? Most people just can't do that. But it also is kind of a limiting factor where if you only care about what's in your box, inherently then anything outside your box you're kind of just going to disregard and throw away as like garbage, right? um and so that's why it hurts when something that's outside of the box, they're like, well yeah, but I don't care about that, or that's stupid, or haha, whatever. It's like, oh right, I forgot that, like, I was treating you like someone who is like outside the box, but you reminded me again that you're in a box. And it's like, it's hard to, like, it's my fault because it's like I crave for the people outside the box, but like I just haven't run into anyone. So yeah, I don't know. This is why it feels so lonely, because people living in a box can't understand what it even means to be outside the box. And I think that's why it's like, no, it's like, I don't live in a box. I'm like, okay, well, do you believe in this? No. Well, you're in a box. It's like, well, that's not fair because that's woo-woo stuff. And it's like, have you actually, like, given it an honest shot of trying to understand it? Because as far as I've seen, no, you haven't. It's like, yeah, but it's like, how can I even trust that that exists? And it's like, that's the point. You don't. So it immediately is outside your scope. You can't interact with something you don't trust. Because fundamentally, there's always in the back of your head, yeah, but this is bullshit. Or yeah, I don't really believe in this, or whatever, right? And that's not to say you should go the other way and be like, well, I should just trust everything. It's like, no, obviously you need to use your discernment, but the problem is, like, most people just haven't built their discernment up of, like, listening to themselves, like, on a deep level. And so there's a lot of, like, prerequisites to, like, getting to the point where you can float between boxes and kind of pick out really helpful things from those boxes without limiting yourself to the negative side of the box. So I'll give you an example. Um, Someone who believes that there is life out there, aside from humans, and that there's a potential and a possibility that, there's aliens interacting or interfacing with humanity in some way. Um, this is helpful in so much as it expands your horizons for what's possible. But along with that box, there is this whole culture around aliens and around, like, it's like you can get really sucked into, like, the details of, like, okay, well, this guy from this one place had the cow mutilation things happen, and so aliens are crazy and they're evil and blah 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 whatever, and they're just here to suck up all of our DNA, and they're trying to get the water, or whatever it is, right? Um and so that's where the box can become harmful, is it it also makes you kind of um try to fit in, because we are social creatures. Most people, the reason they're in a box is because the box makes them feel comfortable, because you can fit in with other people inside the box. And if you're both in the same box, suddenly you have something to talk about. This is why, with card games, as an example, people who go play Magic, you don't need to know anything about this person other than, oh, they play Magic. And then you have this commonality, and great, we're in the box of Magic, we're hanging out, we're having a good time, we're going to tournaments, we're playing, Commander randomly. It's really easy to kind of start making friends within that sphere, or box, as it were. But there are also, again, limitations for that box. And so the advantage to ascending past fitting in a box is you can truly explore what makes you unique, because that uniqueness doesn't fit in a box. And so because of that, most people suppress their uniqueness to fit in the box, either subconsciously or actively. That I'll give you an example. People who have, we went through this whole gender movement, and it used to be that it's like, well, we can't express, if you don't feel like maybe you fit within the body that you were kind of born with. That was just something you just wouldn't talk about, and that was something that was suppressed. And then suddenly we have this kind of almost like knee-jerk explosion of the opposite, where it's like, now we can be whatever, right? And I'm not trying to, like, say one way or another, whether that's good or bad or whatever. I'm glad that people can express who they are. That's all I care about. But so the point is that when you suppress yourself, inevitably it's harder for you to kind of be who you truly are if you're hiding pieces of you, or again, in my case, if you just can't talk about certain things with certain people. And again, it's nothing against those people. It's just that you understand that those are kind of the limitations with whoever it is you're talking to, right? It's the same thing with like coworkers. You have coworker conversations and you can talk about work, and maybe you figure out you have a couple things in common with your coworkers. Maybe you go out for drinks afterwards, whatever, right? But there's a certain level where it's like, well, we're coworkers. So that's the coworker box. And so you wouldn't start talking about super personal details with your coworkers because it's the coworker box. Now, obviously, you can break those boundaries, but it's really hard and it takes a long time to get there. But anyway, so my point with all of this is the advantages to not being in a box is true individuality with yourself. Because you're not trying to fit in a box, you're not suppressing yourself, you're not trying to conform, you're free to kind of see a box, take really good aspects of the box, and then leave the stuff that doesn't really fit with who you are. And then you can jump from box to box and kind of explore different aspects of reality where, you know, most people only explore the boxes around them. Like, even if they're ever going to go outside a box. But, you know, obviously there's a cost to this, which is it's hard to find other people who do this. It's hard to find other people who are just genuinely themselves and just, you know, like, not saying that the box people aren't themselves, but there's a certain level of, oh, well, I can't talk to such and such about this. So an example, maybe there's a taboo topic in the local card shop where you can't talk about. It could be something as simple as politics, because it's like, well, we had like some major incidents in the past, and so we can't really talk about politics. So from like a physical standpoint, that's just their rule. If you're inside the shop, you just can't talk about politics. And like, I'm using that as kind of, that's like more of a hard rule, but individual people have like soft rules around them where you kind of just know, okay, like, this person I can't really talk about X. And you still love the person, you still are like friends with them, you still hang out with them and interact with them, and it's great, but it's kind of a mutual understanding that it's like, okay, well, this is what we're doing, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, being outside the box, you can just be yourself, and then the people that are attracted to you, and what I mean by that is not like in a physical sense, although that could be a thing, but like, I'm talking more about like in terms of like personality, like, oh, I really like this person. Those people, you just see, like, they're like, oh, this person from the get-go, I like this person. And it's like, wow, well, I've been genuine the whole time, so it feels really good to know that people like you for you, not for some weird like box thing where it's like, well, because we play cards, I now like you, right? um so yeah, so that's kind of like that's the thing. And as I kind of experience more of this, it's like more and more like unwanted that there are these box limitations. It's like I'm so done with the whole like box thing. Um and it's it's both fortunate and unfortunate. It's fortunate because it means that I kind of have to like just go out and do things. But it's unfortunate because there's like a mental, physical, emotional like anguish that I feel where it's like I understand that most people are not willing to acknowledge all of me. That's really what it is. Um, because they like the version that they've painted of like, well, within this box, this is Tom. And it's like, yeah, that's part of me for sure. This is, I'm not like it's not like I'm a fake box person. It's just like, yeah, that's my leg. My leg is inside the box. It definitely overlaps, but like there's the whole other part of my body that you can't see. Um and so that's kind of the limitation. And as soon as people start kind of realizing that they're really just interacting with just my leg, they're like, oh fuck, like there's way more there. um and you know again, it's like I get it. We'll just interact leg to box, or foot to box or whatever. So yeah, but and that's not to say that I'm like not enjoying spending time with whatever box I'm in. It's just it's kind of like how do I explain this? I've realized there's it's like fundamentally I see the whole person because I'm someone who explores many boxes. So I can see past the box and allow to really like see the whole person, because no one really fits inside a box. We kind of always try and squeeze in. And some people fit better than others, but it's like that's why I say that people are suppressing themselves. Sometimes it's just a slight squeeze. Other times it's really squeezed. Um, and I'm like, I see it. I see all of it. And it's the best way to describe it is it's unequal. I can see all of the person, but they can't see all of me. And so it's hard to have that back and forth that feels mutually satisfying at that high, deep level. Um, and what I mean by that is like, I'll use card games again because it's just card games are the thing I'm using right today for the analogies. You know, you have like the different layers of understanding when it comes to playing the card game. You have the base novice level, and then you can go all the way up to like the grandmaster, the like the you know, competing for like world championship level of play where they're very, very good. They're like the best, right? And those people that are at the top, that are at the best of their craft, they understand the game so deeply on such a deep fundamental level that when they interact with someone who also understands at that same level, there's this like really cathartic, deep, like, oh my gosh, you too see the thing I'm talking about. And it could be something really simple within the card sphere, but they understand it at a deep level. And they're like, yeah, that's why, you know, for Magic, that's why you took out the one land and put in this one drop instead, because you saw the line where it's slightly better to do it that way. And so they can have this commonality. But if you have that same player talk to someone who is just a casual, you know, Friday Night Magic guy, the Friday Night Magic guy may know a lot about the game, but not at the deep level that they understand. And so there's just a lot of nuance that's missed, where the guy who knows at a deep level is like, oh yeah, I totally see why you did what you did. I see why you built your deck the way you did. And it works. There's obviously a lot of things that you could do to make it better, but obviously it's not really my place to tell you how to change your deck, because that's not really why you play the game. You play the game to play Friday Night Magic with friends, right? So you're not trying to compete at a world championship level. So me telling you, hey, it would be more optimal to have, you know, 24 lands or 23 lands because of this edge case or whatever, you know, the player doesn't care. Because they're like, bro, I just slapped it together on the weekend and I'm having fun with it. And it's like, great. You know what? You don't need to be told by the world champion guy about how to fine tune the deck. And so that's where it's like, that's the kind of disparity where the world champion has to, or the, you know, high level player has to kind of like walk down the steps to interact at the same level as the guy who's doing the Friday Night Magic stuff. And they can have a really great conversation. And the Friday Night Magic guy's like, wow, this guy's so cool. We interacted. We had a great time. It was awesome. And the world champion might be like, hey, this was a fun conversation. But, like, you know, it wasn't like, I had to kind of step down in order to, like, interact. And that's not to say that the world champion guy is, like, better than the Friday Night Magic guy in, like, a world kind of way. They're doing different things. And so when I say step down, it's like stepping down in terms of complexity rather than stepping down in terms of worth or betterment or whatever. They're both equal, but they have different things that they are like focusing on. So that's what I mean by stepping down, is you're stepping down the complexity in order to have a meaningful conversation that makes sense. Because, no one wants to be in a room with someone who's like, hey, I'm going to start talking about astrophysics to you because that's my thing that I do. And then they start talking about it for like 2 hours and you have no reason to care about it at all because you don't understand astrophysics and it's like it goes over your head. And so that's not to say that the astrophysics guy is better than you. It's just he knows more about a subject than you. That's it, right? So socially, it makes sense for the astrophysics guy to step down from that like high, deep analysis level of thinking to talk about subjects that aren't in that sphere, because he's got to socialize with someone that, what, or he's just going to be alone, right? Or just interact with other people who are astrophysicists, which again is a box. So that's kind of, it kind of circles back. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, I think it doesn't help that the way I kind of connect things also is like non-standard as well. So it's like I have a lot of non-standard things swirling around so that I'm already like hamstrung by one non-standard thing, and then there's a slew of things to the point where it's like okay, like I don't even know how to meaningfully like have a conversation that also hits on all the points that make sense from a larger standpoint while like condensing things down. It's like you just lose nuance the more condensed things become, and that's where you end up in a situation like I'm at right now, where the decisions I'm making there is like a huge web that I've used to make the decision. But trying to explain individual points on the web doesn't give anyone a full scope of why something is happening. And so it just seems like I'm rambling, or it's like, okay, well, what does this have to do with the main point you're bringing up? So, it's kind of like some massive decision tree almost. It's not really like that. It's more, again, it's more like a web, but like a giant node web of 3 dimensions. But yeah, the point still stands where I kind of just give the output and say the output. And they're like, what? It'd be the equivalent of like doing like 100 pages of math, like computations, and then saying the answer is 4. And people are like, what? How did you get to 4? And you're like, okay, do you want me to do the whole math problem for you, the whole 100 pages? Do you really want me to go through that? No, I don't actually want to know what you did. Okay, well then how am I going to explain this to you? So I use analogies because I've found that analogies are something logic based that I can try and like use as a comparison, because someone knows what 100 pages looks like. And if it's 100 pages of one math problem, that sounds like a really long math problem. So it makes sense that it's like, oh, okay, you're saying that your process is really, really long. And you're using the math problem as a way to show the length and to show how hard it is to just point to one part of the problem and say, well, yeah, on page 34, I did this one thing. And they're like, I don't get what you did on page 34. Like, okay, well, I got to talk through the whole thing if you really want to know. You're like, no, I was just curious on page 34. You're like, yeah, but you're not going to get it. It's like, it's that kind of thing. And then it gets frustrating because you get some people who are like, yeah, but it doesn't make sense why it's 4. And I'm like, of course it doesn't make sense. Because you haven't gone through the whole proof to figure out that it's 4. And you're not interested in the whole proof, which is fine. But you also can't be like frustrated that you can't understand if you're not willing to go through the time to understand it, right? So, yeah. So it's stuff like that. Oh God, it's 12:27. I'm gonna have to do the book stuff tomorrow. Well, my plan was to go get up early. I can still do that, but like my plan is to get up early and just go for a walk like early in the morning. Also, I'm just gonna say, like, if you didn't follow everything I kind of went through there, like, it's totally understandable. I'm just really at its simplest. I'm just kind of tired of running into the same feedback, knowing why the feedback exists, and understanding from their perspective why the feedback exists, but also completely disagreeing with their feedback, and then being like, but I can't really explain why I disagree with the feedback, which then reinforces, see, I told you the feedback was accurate. And it's like, fuck you, no, that's not even it. You know. And so it's like, I've just given up on explaining and given up on trying to reason, because like the video game example, we're playing 2 different games, and that's okay. So, yeah. But it does get old. And it's like it almost feels like, I know this is not the case, but it almost feels like the universe is throwing all of these different people to try and have the like, are you sure that you're willing to go through this? Because this is your last time to kind of back out. And it's like, bro, I've already walked 99% of the way. It's impossible. Like, I technically could back out, but it's like, realistically, it's impossible. It's like, knowing what I know, I can't unknow it. And unknowing it would be so disingenuous that it's like, I would just completely ruin the like internal genuineness I've cultivated, because I would inevitably have to like literally do like surgery and like cut out all sorts of stuff in order to function in a box. So, that's just not worth it on so many different levels. But yeah. So I don't know. I don't know where this puts me. Um, just past the hour mark. I'm like, God, this has been talking for a long time. I probably should just let you guys go. But yeah, okay. Have a good night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for listening. If you listened through the whole thing, like, congrats. I don't even know what I was trying to say with all of this. So, all right, bye. Have a good night.